Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the biggest show on earth. The greatest radio show ever created by man. And nobody listens to it. Isn't that the way life is sometimes? You think you got a real winner, and all of a sudden your horse comes in last. Greg Anthony here on the Investigative Journal, but undaunted, without worrying about those things. We're going to continue discovering every day the Jesuit connection to the New World Order and all of its tentacles. Today, we're going to talk about the dark origins of human sacrificing throughout history and how it still goes on today in the Vatican, which we've documented before, received much criticism over it because no one would think the holy men over there would ever do such a thing. Next, we have to talk about what's going on in Washington. And it's a good example of how nothing gets done, as usual. There's huge problems in the world, but all they're worried about is Russian collusion with Donald Trump. And then, of course, I'm going to end the show talking about how radical Islam is radical and how, according to the populations of the number of Islamists in a country, will dictate how the country is run and organized. And I want to ask an aside question. Why do we allow a man by the name of Fethullah Gulen to live here? He's not a moderate Muslim. He's a radical living here high off the hog in the Pocono Mountains. And it's a great story which really goes to show you that America is in collusion with destroying its own country. That is the leaders of our country. That is the elite leaders working together with a sinister organization I call the Vatican-led Jesuit New World Order, all of its tentacles. All right, I want to wait on human sacrificing, but let's talk about this idiotic thing going on for the last 2.5 years. I think the Mueller investigation into Trump-Russia collusion has been finalized, but it's just beginning. The legal arguments are going to be basically put to rest, but it's going to be a political debate now. But the whole thing is really, what is it there for? And if you're living in some kind of cave without any kind of internet or without any kind of TV, then you don't know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you do. And the report was released today and found no Russian collusion with the Trump investigation, and found that basically there was no obstruction of justice. And that obstruction issue is going to linger on for a long time. But basically, if you don't have a crime, it's pretty hard to obstruct it, but you can. You can, with a deep criminal intent, want to stop an investigation, but that's not been proven here. But anyway, let me explain what the overview is. It's really here to show American people, and if you know a little bit about the law, you're going to back me up on this. It's going to show a lot to the American people that there is no justice in this country. And how they're doing it is very simple. They've created a phony investigation without any crimes, and they've lingered it on for 2.5 years, spent $35 million. And both the hierarchy, the Democrats and Republicans, allowed this to go on. And guess what? There was no collusion. But on the same token, when you turn over the coin, flip the coin on its other side, you'll find that there's much evidence showing Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's collusion with the Russians, and they do nothing about it. It's like it doesn't exist. So what it's showing America is that if you're on the side of globalism like they are, everything is cool. But if you're a nationalist like Trump is, he's used as the example to show there's no justice in this country. And so the people on the right are hemming and hawing about why don't we put Hillary in jail for all these crimes she's committed. And basically, she gets her day in court like everything else, but never a day in court for her. The Queen of Sheba, the leader of the Democratic globalists, one of the leaders, a follower of the Jesuits. If you look at her background, she's never going to jail for anything. If they haven't put the Clintons in jail by now, have you ever followed all of the crimes, all of the murders that are connected to them that have been whitewashed? If they haven't been put in for all these murders, you think a little thing like breaking hiding secret information on a private server is going to put her in jail? But if you look at it strictly from a prosecutor's point of view, there was plenty of evidence, even when Clinton was in Arkansas and she was just the first lady governor or whatever, the first lady to the governor, that there were many, many killings involving Clinton aides, people close to the Mena, Arkansas drug trafficking there. And he, at the time, had a coroner that had to be let go because of some of his claims of suicide. Like a guy was found dead in a duffel bag, body parts, and they supposedly committed suicide. I mean, there were certain, if you start looking into this, you start really wondering, you don't wonder, that these people get away with murder. Now, most Americans are going to look at that and go, oh, that's conspiracy theory. But it isn't. When you start looking at the number of people on that list, it grows and grows and grows, and we've documented it here, the Clinton hit list. It's amazing. And my goal here is to tell you, if they have not been put in jail for murder or conspiracy to commit murder, they're never going to go to prison for stealing money from the Clinton Hillary, the Clinton Foundation. They're never going to go to jail for Benghazi. They're never going to go for just having a server and, giving all of our secrets to the Chinese. Come on. This is nothing. This is what they do. They're traitors. And when you look, the right-wing journalists and people are putting out information that shows the American people there's probable cause to bring these people, Clinton, Hillary, and Barack Obama and his group that set up this whole sting on Trump, that they should be, at least a grand jury should be held, and they should be put on trial. But it will never happen. Because, like I said, if they haven't gone to jail now since the Arkansas days, for all these murders and all the other corruption they've been involved with, you think they're going to do that now? No way. So what happens is, this whole thing on Trump is going to linger on through his, throughout his presidency as a distraction. And look, he's a part of it too. I'm not letting him off the hook and all of these right-wing journalists either. It just happens that when you look at the case, if you don't understand that they work together, it looks like Clinton's more guilty than Trump, and basically is. They found no collusion with Russia after spending $35 million. But really what it's doing is showing the American people right out in front, there's no justice. Our justice system is gone. And the higher up you go, the worse it gets. So you think they're going to solve problems like immigration, infrastructure, and all these other things, homelessness in America? Hell no. This is just a smokescreen. And all of these problems going on in Venezuela and North Korea will soon come to a head, and you're going to see full-blown socialism in this country. That's what this is all about. That's why you're seeing these upstart Congress people talking about it openly now. And you got 20 or some Democratic candidates. Most of them are backing socialism, although they say it isn't, because they know if they say it, they're not going to get elected yet. That's until the younger people the people, I think there was a survey done, people from the ages of 26 to 34, somewhere in that range, young guys, 59% said they would rather have socialism than capitalism. But the older people, of course, that have been around a while, realize that it's a prescription for communism and for control. And you can label it what you want, American socialism, whatever, and it's going to be the end result because we know where socialism and communism came from. The people who actually control the New World Order, and that's the Jesuits. And when I say control, I say yes. Without them, this stuff is not going to happen. And they created communism back in the 1600s with the Paraguay reductions. We've discussed that here many times. So there you have it. That's really the upshot to the Mueller investigation. One, shows there's no justice. They want to show there's no justice in this country. And they want you to fight between the left and the right, depending on what side you're on. And really, no one is told the truth that these guys work together. Otherwise, why would, for 2 years, just an example, the Republicans controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency, but they could not pass immigration laws. Why? Because of the leadership. Paul Ryan in the pocket of the Jesuits, along with them, their goal was never to get this done. And so now there's a big, huge fight. Now that the Democrats have the House, of course nothing's going to get done. So there you have it. You've got to understand the Hegelian dialectic and how it works. They pit one side against the other, knowing they control both sides, to get their synthesis and their way. And they will. And their way is going to be very simple. Socialism, globalism, and the destruction of white civilization, both here and in Europe. And it's happening as we speak. Okay. Let's talk about human sacrifice. And I'm not talking about us, we sacrifice our lives by watching these TV, shows that they put on. This is like this whole political thing is just like a theater. It's like a theatrical performance. It's not real. It's a staged performance. And so we're sacrificing all of our time and our lives listening to this garbage, thinking that it's real, when it's actually just a performance. It's like going to a theater performance, or it's like going to the movies, but it's on daily. And it's even better than the movies sometimes. But anyway, I was sent an article by Leo Zagami in Europe. And I wanted to do this because he puts up some good points here. And I wanted to talk about it a little, about human sacrifice, and how people have killed others, sacrificed others, in the name of religion, in the name of customs, tradition, or just basically for Satanistic views that many have. Now, my first encounter with human sacrificing, since I didn't grow up in the old days with the Druids or the Aztecs or anything like that, was in Rome when I met someone that said that she was involved in the elite Illuminati from a very rich Italian family, and she was taken to the catacombs of the Vatican as a child and witnessed human sacrifice, a dark mass or whatever they call it down there, and they killed a little boy on an altar. And in the end, I told this story many times. I didn't believe her in the beginning because I was just learning about what was going on there, and I thought she was goofy. But she ended up committing suicide. And I did some research on the story, and I really wish I would have believed her back then. And I talk about it a lot. And so that was my first encounter with it. And then as the years went on, other people came forward, and it began to... I always remembered that person I met and what she told me. So, fast forward to this article. He says the custom of human sacrifice, that's Leo, is evident in a multitude of cultures and regions around the world. Human sacrifice is the act of killing one or more humans, usually as an offering to a deity. Past physical evidence of such evil practices is prevalent from Mesopotamia, the Shang Dynasty era in China, the Aztec world of Mesoamerica, and ancient Jews did not forbid human sacrifice, but they banned unnecessary blood effusions, such as inflicted by Mesopotamian worshippers of Baal, for example, who sacrificed themselves to please their alien-like divinity. It says Patriarch Abraham was stopped from carrying out the sacrificial throat-cutting of his beloved young son Isaac by the word of God. God solely intended to test Abraham's trust, and a surrogate sacrifice was made with an immaculate white ramstead caught in nearby bushes, right? The purpose and reasoning for human sacrifice remains a great mystery for the majority of researchers. It becomes difficult for scholars to pinpoint the origins and rationale for such rituals because they have not been initiated into the secret sects and mystery schools, controlling the established cults and religions that perpetrated them. Due to the emotional and moral dilemma of studying human sacrifice, much of the data and interpretations can be tainted by the personal feelings of the researcher. Majority of people often broadly label human sacrifice as evil and barbaric, having no interest in why such ceremonies occurred and ignore the existence of such ceremonies in today's society. Now, I'm not going to deny that seems to be evil to me. I don't care what you say. I mean, I don't want to be one of the humans sacrificed, right? You remember, I remember watching a movie about the girl gets thrown into the volcano or something. Okay. I can, think of better ways to deify the gods, right? Aztec people of Mesoamerica constituted the most well-known civilization for the practice of human sacrifice. Now, that's not too far from us, right? Right down in Mexico way. Although perhaps the most infamous method of human sacrifice in the Aztec civilization is the excision of the heart, many other methods existed like decapitation, cutting of the throat, being thrown into a fire, being shot with arrows, drowned, buried alive, or hurled down from the top of a pole or pyramid. In my estimation, none of which I would choose as a way to die. Human sacrifice is still practiced to this day around the world, and not only by the dark side of the Illuminati. Okay, let's see what he has to say about this. On January 7th, 2016, a teenage boy's headless body was found near a cremation ground on the road to a village in, where is this? In district of somewhere, Baganpur village. I don't know where he's talking about here. Next to the headless corpse, I'll have to check my geography maps. I'll give you it says this, the BHAGWANPUR village in RAIGARH district of CHHATTISGRAGARH. Okay, we'll have to figure out where that is on the map, or maybe he explains it. Next to the headless corpse, earthen lamps, incense sticks, Sindor vermilion flowers, and were strewn about. The father later admitted beheading his own son after reading a black magic manual. Okay, sounds pretty gruesome to me, doesn't it? So, after reading the book, I was convinced that this is a quote. I was convinced that this special puja was the only way to end my misery, so I beheaded my son, said the father. Okay. A few months later, in October 2016, again in India, that's in India, an 18-month-old baby girl was allegedly sacrificed for a black magic ritual in the southern province of Karnataka. Why are such rituals still practiced in India? Black magic rituals are regularly practiced by the Hindu community in various parts of the country for personal gains, property dispute, treasure hunting, and male childbirth. Many Hindus believe in the use of black magic in curing diseases, taking revenge, acquiring wealth, or attracting an unwilling companion. This doesn't happen only in India, as the practice of ritual killing and human sacrifice continues to take place in several African countries in a contravention of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and other rights and instruments. In the 21st century, human beings are still being hunted down, mutilated, murdered, and sacrificed for ritual purposes across the region to help the corrupt African elite maintain their positions. Several cases of kidnapping and disappearance of persons are traced to the vicious schemes and activities of rituals, often working with the dark side of the Illuminati. In most cases, those targeted for ritual sacrifice are vulnerable members of the population, the poor, women, children, the elderly, and people with disabilities. Ritualists and magicians from certain secret societies hunt for and harvest human body parts to prepare charms and magical concoctions. In some cases, desperate ritualists invade cemeteries and exhume dead bodies to extract body parts. Ritual killing and related human rights abuse takes place because many people still believe that the use of charms and the performance of ritual sacrifice can fortify them spiritually, enhance their fortune and business, and during elections, or protect them from harm, disease, poverty, accident, death, and destruction. Africa and India have a truly dark side that is present in contemporary Western civilization, even if mostly hidden. The only satanic sect that appears to condone human sacrifice and human culling out in the open these days is the Lilin Society, founded in 2013 in the United States. The Lilin Society presents itself as targeting the serious practitioners in search of Luciferian gnosis. The Society's founder, Massachusetts native Asha Shadim, describes the Church of Satan as plastic and says Lilins neither recognize them or the temple of Set. Okay, here's a quote from his writings. Human sacrifice in the Lilin Society has many methods. There is a physical act through occult ritual, assassinations, or staged accidents. According to Asha Shadem's writings, human sacrifice should only be practiced on those who are adversaries of Satan, and their death should be of benefit to Satan. According to Shadem's blog, Lilins do not see Satan as the one God, but one of many dark gods. They do not worship Satan because no Satanist shall bow to any god or man. Instead, Lilins has a profound appreciation of accusal entities known as gods or demons. They are something we aspire to become one day. Besides human sacrifice, Satan and his power can also be experienced through sorcery and living sinister lives, according to Shadem, who seems to have well-established links with the dark side of the Illuminati, dedicated to voodoo and Quimbanda, the cult of Santa Muerta, etc. Oh, wow. I didn't know that went on here in the good old United States. My goodness. Let's, I got a little bit more to talk about on this. But before we do, let's take a break. Go to my website at greganthonysjournal.wordpress.com. Get shows going back well over 15 years on this subject. Not only is human sacrifice, we do that a little bit here, but on many, many things related to the Jesuits, the Vatican, how it infects your life, how our political system is tainted with this Hegelian dialectic approach to government, where both parties seemingly are at odds with one another, but actually at the top levels work together for a sinister goal, which is very simple: one world order, one world government. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device and smartphone absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, folks, back for another half hour of the Investigative Journal on this Thursday. Yes, it is Thursday, all day. And like I said in the first half hour, human sacrificing does go on in the world still today. And some say, and people have researched, that it still goes on in the Vatican. Okay? Now, most people will never believe that and will call me crazy for even bringing it up. But they do, I think they call it a black mass. They have a lot of these. They have a black mass, they have a red mass, and we know what the red mass is, don't we? Now, I grew up a Catholic, so I know all about the masses. I used to go to mass. I was an epistle reader as a young boy. But what is a red, a black mass, okay, is a very dark, disgusting situation where they go down in the catacombs of the Vatican, according to certain people, and they sacrifice a child. All right. What is a red mass? Well, this is a concoction that started out in 2000 when John Paul II, the cyanide-selling pope, was allowed, well, what he did was the Congress passed a resolution stating that the Supreme Court, the date of the Supreme Court, when the Supreme Court opens, everybody will go and have a red mass. So if you're in Washington, all these people, whether they're Episcopalians, Satanists, Catholics, Christians, whatever, they run to the Catholic Church with the cardinal or the bishop, and they have a red mass to celebrate the opening of the Supreme Court session. This goes on all over the country. And guess who the patron saint of the Red Mass is? It's Sir Thomas More. And he was one of the biggest... he was a legalist in Europe back when they used to kill all of the Christians. Yeah, he was an inquisitor. And so you can understand why they chose him. But they all go running to Mass, so this red Mass is a celebration of killing heretics, basically, in the guise of truth and justice in America. Wow. Human sacrifice. I think, just listening to all these things that they do is enough to say, like, hey, am I sacrificing my whole life for all this BS they do? Yeah, if you believe all this crap. But anyway, that's what they do on the Red Mass. And look up Sir Thomas More and all this garbage. And when you start really looking at the traditions of Catholicism, my God, what a crock of you-know-what. So anyway, I want to end the show with a discussion I started Monday, I believe. And it's regarding Muslim behavior based on population. And I think it's a good subject because you hear what's going on in the House of Representatives. Now we have a radical Muslim as a representative of our Congress. And she has a lot of bad things to say about Jews and other things. And she comes from a district in Minnesota where they've populated that area with a lot of Muslim refugees. And so I guess her, radical Islamic Sharia law ideas go over well there. However, it's a sign and symbol of what's to come in the future because according to a book that I really liked, and it really was one of the few books, didn't make the New York Times bestseller list because only the crappy books make that. Oh, and by the way, before I do this, let me mention this. You know who Bernie Sanders is, right? Bernie is running again for president. By the time he wins, he'll be 109. But anyway, good for you, Bernie. Good for you. But anyway, let's just talk about his policies. Now, Bernie's an outright socialist. He calls himself a democratic socialist. He wants Medicare for all, which is really single-payer health care, which means you're going to have a system where the government takes care of your health care. And if they take care of your health care like they take care of your border, there's going to be a population decline in this country. About 90% of people are going to die. So you want that kind of health care, go right ahead. But Bernie talks a game, and they want to raise taxes to like 70%, Do you realize when this whole taxation issue came up during the American Revolution, and that was over 3% taxes. Now, people will go and pay whatever they're told. They're like sheep going to the slaughter. But anyway, Bernie is a hypocrite. And let me give you an example why. He wrote a book last year, or the year before, and the whole book was about how millionaires and billionaires and capitalism sucks. But Bernie became a millionaire from this book. And then he paid Trump's lower tax rate that Trump passed at 25%, 26%. Now, you would think Bernie would, basically say, if I want everybody to pay 70% and have, medical care from the government, he would do one thing. He would pay 70% instead of Trump's lower tax rate of 26%. And he would also get off that lucrative health care program that senators and congressmen get. Just to set an example. But these people that decry and want socialism, they're the ones that are living in high-rise apartments making $200,000 to $500,000 a year. They walk the walk, but they talk the talk, get it right, Greg, but they don't walk the walk. So it's a bunch of garbage. So anyway, I wanted to mention that. But getting back to this issue about radical Islam and how America, through its open borders, through all of this stuff that they want, you see, you got to destroy the middle class, which they're doing a good job, create a huge amount of homelessness. But you know what? Take care of all these people that come here that aren't even American citizens. Yeah, and they're doing it for a reason. Because in the end, this country is going to be a controlled country. Democracy, the Constitution, all this stuff will mean be meaningless. And whether it becomes under Sharia law or Chinese form of capitalism or whatever, or socialism, it's like in Venezuela, it's over. Now, the whole point I want to make is how hypocritical these people are when they talk about protecting the rights of moderate Muslims. As if, that's the most important thing in the world, when they say there's only 0.6% of the whole population is Muslim. I don't believe that's correct, because we've got 30 to 40 million people in this country. We don't even, well, they say 20, so I always double it. We don't even know who they are. They come here, and then they just disappear. So how do you know how many Muslims are here? But I do know one. And he was brought here in the 90s by William Jefferson Clinton and his wife Hillary. And he was set up in the Pocono Mountains. His name is Fethullah Gulen. I've mentioned him many times in this show, but he's a good example of why the United States, at the elite powers, are actually creating, funding, and helping radical Islam. Now, he's one example. And his tactics are well known in Europe. He's wanted in his own country of Turkey for radical Islamic thoughts. Turkey is one of the more democratic, it's kind of like the firewall in that part of the world between radical Islam and a more moderate type of country. Now, Gulen is wanted there for trying to overthrow and turn it into a radical country, but he was given safe haven here in America years ago under the guise that he's a moderate imam, teacher, who is here to help spread moderate Islam through schools, American funding, millions of dollars of money going to all these schools he forms. But if he does the same thing he did in Europe, it's a cover for radical Islam. And our State Department should know that. To give you an example why it's no different whether Obama's president or Bush or Trump, Clinton, none of these guys want to give him up. Now, recently there was an attempted coup in Turkey, if you remember, and the president there had asked Trump to turn over Fethullah Gulen. And in turn, we get something, right? They mentioned it once in the news, and that was it. Because they work together, whether he's a Republican president or not. Now, if Trump really wanted to get radical Islam out of this country, he would have turned Gulen over like that. It's just one sign. And they can hide behind the fact, well, he's a moderate. We're protecting him. But if you look at his history in Europe, which I did, you'll see he's not. He's complete opposite, and he's hiding here in America. Well, in open, he's protected by our government and allowed to do this, to fester radical Islam. Now also, if you start looking at a number of these compounds around the country, there's one in upstate New York and about 40 others all over the country, you actually have compounds. Now, how these people got the land and the ability to stay in this country is beyond belief. But I'm sure that either some rich donors or certain people through funding gave these radical Islamists safe haven here. But they've actually got pictures of these people, marching with weapons and saying death to America. So the question was posed to our FBI, why do you allow them to be here? Why don't you kick them out? This was by good Americans in New York and other places that happen to live near these places. They're going, what the hell is going on? And you know what the FBI's response was? We have an eye on them. We're keeping an eye on them. What do you mean you're keeping an eye on them? Why don't you go in and kick them out? And at the same time, why don't you ask a representative in Congress named Smallwell, Eric Swalwell, what an idiot. He recently made a statement that if he became president, that he would ban all assault weapons, and people who had them and didn't turn them over would go to jail. So he wants to put good people in America who want to protect themselves, who don't commit crimes, into jail, but he doesn't give a shit about these radical Islamists running around with a weapon saying, kill America. Death to America. So you know these people are full of shit. It's that simple. So let's talk about this. So Dr. Peter Hammonds does this book, and it really opened my eyes up. And if the statistics are right, now I know there's more than 0.6%, but we're going to go along with these, statistics that are given out. And he makes the argument by looking at Islam. It's not only religious, it's not legal, it's not only political, economic, social, and it has military components. The religious component is just a cover for all of its other components. It's kind of like the Vatican, They're a city, they're a country, they got corporate interests, they enter into concordats or agreements with over 200 countries, political nature, economic nature, but religion is just their cover. And Islam and the Vatican and the Quran and the Catechism and the traditional Roman Catholic values are very similar when you start looking at these two books. And it gives credence to the fact that if you start doing some research, that maybe Rome did create Islam and the Muslim and the Quran. And that's why maybe you'll see, if you go to Islamic countries that are under Sharia law, on one corner you'll see a huge mosque, and on the other corner a Catholic cathedral. You won't see a Bible-believing little home church. No. They're in bed together, still working together. So Dr. Hammond makes this argument that Islam begins when there are Islamization. Okay, the Islamization, I have trouble with that word, begins when there are sufficient Muslims in a country to agitate for their religious privileges. When politically correct, tolerant, and culturally diverse societies agree Muslim demands for their religious privilege, some of the other components tend to creep in as well. It's kind of like the Vatican when you look at it, because in the beginning, in this country was formed, they didn't want Catholics here, especially Jesuits, because they knew what they were doing in Europe. They were trying to overthrow governments, doing the whole thing. They didn't want that here. But through the Constitution that they helped create, they gave us freedom of religion, so they snuck in here, and now look what they do. They control everything, similar to what Islam is doing. And the Vatican works well with this kind of thing, so together it'll be a good mix. You can either be a Muslim here in America or a Catholic. Outside of that, they're going to kill you. And all you people who think it's so great to support Ima, this congresswoman, think about what their countries are like if you're a homosexual. Now we got a guy named Buttigieg. He's running for president. He's a homosexual, and he's going to push that to the limit to win. And to me, give me a break. We've already had a homosexual Obama in office, and we've had a transgender first lady in Michelle, who's really Michael. So, this is nothing new. They're just telling you now, So, anyway, as long as Muslim populations remain under 2% in any given country, they will, for the most part, be regarded as a peace-loving minority. That's in countries like United States, Australia. Well, Canada's growing. They're at 1.9. China, 1.8. That's going to be interesting. Italy, I'm sure, is bigger than 1.5. So you're seeing that even Islamization creeping into some of those countries from the reports that I get. But at 2 to 5% to begin to proselytize from other ethnic minorities and disaffected groups, often with major recruiting from the jails and among street gangs. It's happening in Denmark with 2%, Belgium 4%, Germany 4%, United Kingdom almost 4%, Spain 4%, Thailand 5%, and it gets worse. From 5% they exercise an inordinate influence in proportion of their percentage of population. For example, they'll push for introduction of halal, clean by Islamic standards. You know what? Have any? I'm a Polish guy, right? My whole family's Polish. You don't see me going around going, I want a food store with only Polish food. You know? Listen, if you're a Muslim and you live here, go to In-N-Out Burger. For example, they will push for introduction of halal, clean by Islamic standards, thereby securing food preparation jobs for Muslims. They will increase pressure on supermarket chains to feature halal on their shelves. I'm going to go, hey, I don't see any Polish sausage here. Albertsons. I'm going to go out there. Can you see me with a little going out there protesting? I want more Polish sausage on your shelves because I'm Polish and I'm feeling like I'm not being represented in America properly. That's exactly what this is. And then, what's so interesting about this whole argument, anytime you criticize, you're considered a racist. For example, when this congresswoman, she's got to understand she's a public figure, and you can be criticized. When people started to criticize what she was saying about certain things about the Jews and calling Trump an MFer, stuff like that in public, she said, "Oh, look at how they're treating brown women. You can't say that because I'm a brown woman." So what's she doing? Identity politics. She could say anything you say against her, it is racist. But hell, you can say anything you want about a Polak, right? And that's okay. This is enough to drive you nuts, isn't it? But what happens when the population from France is 8.5? It gets worse. Now, when it gets higher than that, worse. And worse and worse. When it's more than 5 to 10%, Sweden 9, stuff like that. But at this point, when it gets to 10 and higher, they will get the ruling government to allow them to rule themselves within their own ghettos under Sharia and Islamic law. That's going on in certain countries in Europe. So they don't even follow the laws of the country they're in. The ultimate goal of Islamists is to establish Sharia law all over the world. When Muslims approach 10% of the population, they tend to increase lawlessness as a means of complaint about their conditions. In Paris, we're already seeing this, car burnings, etc. We're seeing it all the time. Remember the opposition to Muhammad cartoons, stuff like that? Such tensions are seen daily, particularly in Muslim sections. Guyana, 10%, India, 13%, Israel, 16%, Kenya, 10%, Russia, 15%. I didn't know that. Now, after 20%, nations can expect hair-trigger rioting, jihad militia formations, sporadic killings and burnings of Christian churches and Jewish synagogues, as in Ethiopia, Muslims 32.8%. At 40%, nations experience widespread massacres, chronic terror attacks, and ongoing militia warfare, such as in Bosnia, 40%, Chad, 53%, Lebanon, 60%. From 60%, nations experience unfettered persecution of non-believers. That's you and me. Of all religions, including non-conforming Muslims, sporadic ethnic cleansing, genocide, use of Sharia law as a weapon, and tax placed on infidels, such as in Albania, 70%, Malaysia, 60%, Qatar, 77%, Sudan, 70%, but at 80%, folks expect daily intimidation and violent jihad, some state-run ethnic cleansing programs, and even genocide. As these nations drive out infidels and move towards 100% Muslim, such as have been experienced in some ways, is ongoing in Bangladesh, 83%, Egypt, 90%, Gaza, 98%, Indonesia, 86%, Iran, 98%, Iraq, 97%, Jordan, 92%, Morocco, 99%, Pakistan, 97%. Palestine, 99%, Syria, 90%, Pakistan, 90%, Turkey, 99%, United Arab Emirates, 96%. But at 100%, here we go. They usher in peace of Dashlam, the Islamic House of Peace. Here there's supposed to be peace because everybody is a Muslim. The madrasas are the only schools, and the Quran is the only word, such as in Afghanistan 100, Saudi Arabia 100, Somalia 100, Yemen 100. Unfortunately, peace never is achieved, as in these 100% states, the most radical Muslims intimidate and spew hatred and satisfy their bloodlust by killing less radical Muslims for a variety of reasons. They kill their own. Yeah, let me check the time here. So I think you're getting the point. And it's really important to understand that in some countries with well under 100% Muslim population, such as France, the minority Muslim populations live in ghettos within which they are 100% Muslim and within which they live by Sharia law. This is going on in certain places in Italy, certain places France, Sweden, etc. There's no national courts. The national police do not even enter these zones. Why? The children attend madrasas. They learn only the Quran. They don't even want to associate with infidels, and it's a crime punishable by death. So is that what you want here? If you do, allow Trump to keep Fadula Gul in here. Don't say a word about that congresswoman. Then you're going to have it one day. And boy, I'll tell you, don't tell you I didn't tell you so. Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.